Hey, Wilderness Podcast. This is That's Johnny T. Dude, huge fan, by the way. I clean pools for a living, so just being able to like feel a part of something, like not even a part of something, but just being able to get info on something that you love so much. I think it's fucking great, man. I don't know if we're allowed to cuss or not, but here's to many more years. Thanks.
Welcome to episode 204 of the Wilderness Podcast. I am Dills, and as always, Heartless. How's it going?
Hey, Dills, doing well.
So I had a little bit of a gamer boy night last night. I don't really get the chance too often to stay up late gaming, but I was able to last night. Some family stay over, and I was pretty much wired into the AM. So I was gaming. I bring that up because I'm a little bit tired this today, and oh boy, we have a PvP arena blog, which always means you got to get hyped up for it. No matter what side you stand on, you hate it, you love it. There's a lot of energy going around on the subreddit and Twitter about this.
Jeez.
As always. So yeah, there's a new PvP arena blog just kind of going over what it's going to be, even though they've talked about. I'm kind of confused why this came out again because they already talked about exactly what it is, but this is the poll blog, so they're going to be pulling, they show what some of the recolors or reskins of the items that we're going to be seeing come into the game, possibly. And yeah, they're just pulling all that fun stuff. And of course, another thing that everyone loves, put quotes around that, we got the Easter 2022 event that dropped on us, as well as some other minor changes to the Rev Caves and some changes to the combat achievement tasks. Yeah, that's pretty much the news of the week. But what's the news on Heartless's end? Anything going on with you?
Another 5 pets this week.
Wait, actually, what?
No, I'm just kidding. no, I didn't get any more pets. That's a once a year type thing. So moving on, I basically killed Bryophyta this week, the free to play boss for the essence. I did 100 KC.
What are your thoughts? You like that boss?
Do about 8 per hour. Now it sucks. I need the essence for a master clue step, and
oh wow, okay.
I haven't gotten it yet. It's 1 in 118, and I'm at 150. So
that sucks.
It's boring. Oh, I mean, thankfully I have the chain mace, so I can one shot the moss giants. So I just run out there and take a couple divines and just kind of kill them very quickly and get 8 or 9 keys, and then run back down and send the boss. That's pretty much all I've done.
I guess for some context, yeah, they brought in these like 2 free-to-play bosses some odd years ago. And one was Bryophyta, or was it Bryophyta? I always fuck up
Bryophyta.
And there's Obor. I don't like that name. I don't know who made that name. No, I think it's an actual type of moss that they've named it after.
It is a type of moss, yeah.
Cool. Okay, so we got that right. And then there's Obor, which is the hill giant boss. And yeah, both free to play. And in order to get access to this boss, you got to kill hill giants or moss giants to get a key. And then you can fight the boss one time. And if you go into the wilderness, you get double the chance to get the drop of the key. So a lot of people go to the wilderness.
The funniest part is that the essence, which is worth like maybe 6 or 7 mil, because it turns into this staff that lets you basically save nature runes for alching from Bryophyta. It's not even available on free to play.
Yeah, so that's the weird part.
Shit from the free to play boss, except for the guaranteed, I guess, beginner clue scroll.
Yeah, whereas like Obor, they have the Hill Giant Club, which acts as like a rune two-hander, has the stats of a rune two-hander, but more for crush. So the thing sits for like 500k, so it's not a whole lot, but it's a new item for free to play, which is always exciting for free to play players because there's a lot of people who only play free to play. It also has a use in free-to-play PKing because it's stronger against full rune armor. So if you have like an end game account and you're PKing in free-to-play, you might want to bring that instead of a rune two-hander. But yeah, for some reason the essence isn't available on free-to-play, which I thought was weird on release because I don't even remember them polling that part of it. But I know they've talked about it recently and they might switch it to free-to-play.
I mean, it should have been free-to-play all along, and then at least free-to-play would have some like cool chase item that they could go for.
Yeah, it's weird to have a boss, especially when it's a step up from Obor and you get nothing unique from it. Yeah, it's kind of strange.
Well, what can you do? That's pretty much all I did. I sent a couple hard mode tobs as well with some friends.
Oh, fun. Do you like that? Is it fun?
They are fun. They get the blood pumping, you know.
Nice.
The content is just a little bit as expected. It's slightly harder.
Yeah.
My friends are very good at raiding though. So Poplo and 40, Karma, whoever else came with us, they're all really quite good at them. So it makes it fairly easy, especially after you've done 400 regular tobs. It's just the mechanics are all the same. There's just another element kind of layered into each room.
Right. Okay.
So I feel like after maybe 30, 40 KC of hard modes, they'd be quite comfortable.
Now, could you go back and do like going back to a normal Theater of Blood? Is it less fun now because you can do the heightened difficulty?
I'm really just there for the items. So like I do enjoy the content. I think it's quite good when you're comfortable on it. It's quite painful to learn, I will admit. But yeah, I know regular tobs are fine as well.
Cool.
Because it kind of scales with the players that you're with. So if you're with players that have lesser KCs, the tobs are even regular tob is going to be quite hard.
Yeah.
Because they make mistakes and then you'll take damage as a team and you'll need to, if they die, you'll need to carry a little bit.
Yeah, it's really easy. Like I've raided with people who are really, really proficient raiders, hundreds of KC. And there's the second room and the second last room. They're really kind of easy rooms. Like it's really hard. Most of the time you don't die. It's pretty standard. There's like a pattern, not a pattern, but I don't even know how to explain it. It's just easier than the other rooms, but people still die on
which
there.
room? Sorry.
The second and the second last. So Zarpus and the bloat.
Oh, and bloat is kind of unpredictable because the meat falls from the ceiling, and if it hits you, then you're stunned, and then bloat just catches you and you die.
Yeah.
So there's like a random factor to it. While all the other rooms, there's not much randomness to them. They're pretty consistent. The other random part would be like the tornadoes during P3 of Verzik.
Yeah.
That can be quite difficult for players as well. Those two elements are quite tough. So in hard modes, I've been through them before, so I'm not going to go in detail, but basically she heals a bunch. So you have tornadoes for quite a lot longer than you would in a regular one. So it's just slightly more chaotic. But yeah, no, they're pretty fun, man. But yeah, like with like anything in the game, with time, you'll get comfortable. Like CMs, I used to find solo raids quite difficult. And I would, die a lot and then I learned them and then became a lot more comfortable. And now solo challenge modes, I'm like at that level where they're quite comfortable and I don't die. So going back to regular solos, it's like, oh, this guy doesn't hit very hard anymore when you're at all.
Yeah, true.
And I think it'll be the same way with Tob eventually.
Yeah, very nice. Very nice.
Yeah, just looking for a scythe and a rapier and then I can leave.
Sounds fun. You might be stuck there for a while, but
I'm probably going to be, but it's not a big deal. Well, yeah. What about you? Have you been playing much, or what did you do on that DGen night?
No, I didn't do a whole lot. I just I haven't had a night where I can like sit and play RuneScape and do whatever I want for a couple hours. It was like midnight. The kid was sleeping. The missus was sleeping, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna stay up for like 2 hours gaming. I just did some DKs, Dagonoth Kings. I had a Slayer task, and it was fun. And I had like YouTube on the side, and I was like, man, there's a lot of times I can't jump into a boss like DKs or a raid or something. So I'm like, I don't know if I'm going to get interrupted, and it sucks to like be halfway through or whatever. You're in the middle of a trip and you've got to leave due to like real life. Someone's calling you or the baby's crying, and a lot of the times I don't really do it. I'm like skilling or just doing whatever. So it was nice to do it, but I haven't really been up to a whole lot of stuff. Been skilling through the week, doing some mining and all that fun stuff. I have not been up to a whole lot at all.
I mean, hey, you're working towards max, right?
Yeah, so that's the thing. I'm chipping away. We're slowly working towards with.
You must be getting
mining.
close now. What's left?
So I have 70 levels to get, which is a lot. I look at my levels and I'm almost base 90s, but I still have 70 levels to get overall. But mining is getting close to 96. Prayers, I'm slowly chipping away to 99. So we're slowly gonna get there. I'm in not a huge rush, but
what do you think the hardest one will be for you?
I think thieving will be quite hard.
Right. You've mentioned you don't like thieving.
Yeah, thieving's gonna be so the AFK ones are gonna be kind of easy because I can just kind of do them throughout the week. Because I work from home and stuff. So those are pretty, I can slowly chip away on a lot of those, like even Herblore and stuff. Like it'll be slow, but I can kind of still over time I'll just get it. Whereas stuff like agility is going to be a bit tough, but I do agility when we record the podcast. Like I'm running the Apatoll course right now, and once I get to 92 agility, I can do the Hollowed Sepulchre, and that should be fun. So hopefully that will be a little bit easy to do. But I look at thieving and hunter. Both aren't super quick. They're not really AFK, and they're not fun. So those are going to be the tough ones to do. But part of me is like, I'll leave those for last because eventually we'll get some activities that will make those skills more fun, I think. I think we're kind of going towards that direction. Every skill is going to have a fun way of training it.
I mean, Hunter's got quite a lot going for it, so.
Hunter's got a lot you can do, and it feels like it should be more fun. And it's not the worst.
Herbivore is pretty good.
I thought I liked Herbivore, but then I was talking to someone, and they're like, yeah, Herbivore is just like, it's just reskinned agility courses. And I was like, you bastard, like it is. How the hell did they trick me into like thinking I like this? And then I realized this is like an agility course. What the fuck? So I don't know if I like it anymore. It got ruined for me. It's not bad though. Getting herbs is always fun. Just skilling away. But as one thing that had me thinking this week, and it wasn't having to do anything that I was playing, almost the exact opposite, something that I don't want to do. And we're going to talk about it in a bit, but we have an Easter event that got dropped on this week. And I had this thought during Christmas when the Christmas event dropped on us. And I also had a thought when the Halloween event dropped on us. And I was like, these aren't fun. I don't enjoy doing these holiday events. I used to, I thought I did. I would be like, oh, it's so cool that they make these events. And I don't want them to like quite stop. But at the same time, like, and I think you share the same opinion because I think we talked about during the Christmas one. Did you do the Christmas event?
Nope, I haven't done the last 3.
Yeah, so like they're just, I did it just because the whole I wanted to get some of the items, and I don't want to wait a whole year to get the next ones. But doing them, I couldn't help but feel like I'm not quite enjoying these. These are all just like bad quests. Like that's what they remind me of. They're just lots of dialogues. Go talk to this person, go talk to this person, go talk to this. And you're just kind of running around talking to people. And that's kind of what it boils down to. And the dialogue isn't super serious. It's usually kind of silly, but it's not that engaging, I found. So I'm just bored. And halfway through it, I'm like, I just want to space bar through it. But I want to pretend like I'm liking it because I want to be able to like, oh, it was. What I'm trying to say is I want to like these events so bad. And I just can't. What are your thoughts on these events? Do you share a similar opinion?
Yeah, well, obviously I haven't done them for the last 3, so I don't know. I just don't enjoy them. They're just like another time-gated quest that you have to do in a certain amount of time. And it feels like I'm basically just being forced to do them for the items. I don't really want to do the actual quest.
Yeah.
Or, I don't know. I've always have like questing. Like a lot of people hate questing in this game. I've always quite enjoyed it. I like, sitting down, getting all my, like going through the list of things that I'm going to need, especially if there's like little fights and stuff in there. I feel like maybe because these quests, these events, they're meant to be accessible by everyone. So there's no requirements. So they're basically just dialogue quests. There's not a lot they can do with them. Maybe that's what it comes down to, but they're just, they're kind of boring. And I'm not sure. Like, sure, some of the jokes are like funny and quippy, but just doesn't work for me.
Do you think you've ever enjoyed them in the past?
Maybe. I think I like the Halloween one. One of them was funny, but still, it was like I didn't feel like I felt forced to do it again. So I don't know, man. Yeah. It's I really can't quite put my finger on it. I won't lie to you. I wish I had the answer, but something about them just doesn't feel the same as regular quests.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think it is probably to do with that accessibility. Like, imagine you're the person designing the quest. You need to make sure a level 3 fresh off tutorial island can go and do it.
Yeah.
Whereas if you're designing like a sick quest or even like an entry level quest, you can have something like 35 crafting required, or 29 range, or like 30 range to equip a maple short bow or whatever it is. You could have some kind of requirement, which then means you can make the quest more complicated and have more interactions in it. Have more things the players have to do. and it just gives you more options as like a story builder. But I feel like the restriction of making everyone do it and it having to be short makes it kind of boring. I'm not asking for like super long ones, or they actually have requirements. I just think it's kind of a flaw of the holiday event system.
Yeah. No, I agree. But like, I feel, and I do want to like them so bad because I like them in other games. Other games that I play, they have these holiday events and they're always fun, and I kind of really look forward to them, and they're more exciting. And I want it to be the same with old school RuneScape. But just
I used to look forward to them when I was a kid.
yeah,
Like maybe that's what I'm comparing it to. Because when I was a child, I was all about the events because you get the sick, untradeable items that you'll have forever on your account, and they're kind of like a huge flex.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas now they're just kind of bleh, They're cool, sure, but like you can just get them at any other event. So for me, that makes it kind of awkward. But when I was a kid, I remember specifically the snowball fight one. I was just in there for hours playing the snowball fight event to get the it wasn't a Santa hat, it was like an elf hat with a few baubles on the top, or like a jester hat maybe, and they came in different colors and you could get a scarf.
Yay, I remember those.
They were just best in slot. I just loved them. The fashion scape was huge. I would wear them around everywhere. I'd spend ages playing that little mini game with my friends, or that little event. But different times. So maybe I'm comparing my current feelings towards them when I'm an adult to when I was a child, and I truly love them.
Yeah, I wonder if we're like alone on this, or if because I know some people, I'll see it on the subreddit, people are like, oh, kudos to whoever made this event. It was a lot of fun. But I can't.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I know some people like it, but I wonder if the majority feel like us, where it just feels kind of boring, sometimes too long. I was trying to think, like, have I ever liked a RuneScape holiday event? If I went back and if they re-released all the old holiday events, but they were like my first time going through it, would I enjoy them? And I'm not sure, because they did have a dev blog or a poll blog way back that asked like, hey, we spend a lot of time on these holiday events. Do you guys care, basically? And people were like, no, we don't care. We still want them, but just put minimum effort in. And my perception is that it gets, sometimes one of the J mods are like, I'll do it on my free time, or I'll spend. This week is a little bit light, so I'll work on this on my own. So you have one person or a couple people working on it, which might result in it being.
It's maybe like a couple days thrown at it. I'm not sure how long it takes them to make these kind of things, but it's not much. But that's what we asked for. So like, why are we upset about it?
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
It's, there's nothing we can do really. And I truly wonder what percentage of the population of players likes it versus doesn't. Because I'm sure there's a lot more people that do like it.
And I think like I think part of it is that the rewards, we know we can get them next year. So we're like, whatever. This one, we're not going to do it. But when I look at other video games that do these events, and it seems like a lot of them follow a similar trend where, and I don't know if this is a good thing or a bad thing. I think a lot of people might see this as a bad thing, which is why we don't have it in old school RuneScape, because nobody wants to have like a FOMO aspect of these events. They want to know they can always come back and do it. But like when I look back at my time playing World of Warcraft or MapleStory when I was younger, or, playing Destiny 1 and Destiny 2, something that I used to play a lot of. And recently I was playing Escape from Tarkov during Christmas time, which is like an FPS shooter. And a lot of them have like, the way they do their holiday events is, there's some fun things you can do and whatnot, but there's like things that you can unlock that if you don't unlock it during the Christmas event, then you pretty much lose out on it. We don't want that in old school RuneScape. A lot of people made that clear. We don't want to miss out on certain items, but what a lot of them do have is like, you need to work towards unlocking these items. You don't just do this one little quest and you get them all. You might have to it's almost like the league's point system, where it's like, you need to go do these tasks, get these points, then spend it on these items. Now, again, I don't think that's might be a good thing for old school RuneScape, but the aspect that I always enjoy the most was there's always some sort of activity, whether it's a new boss. It's usually a new boss of some sorts. That's like a holiday boss, or some sort of PVM activity that you do in these games that you get like a decent amount of money from it, or like or resources, or you might get a unique item from it. And it makes it so that you're like, one, you like killing bosses as it is, but 2, let's do this boss when we can, because if we can get this item, we don't have to wait till next year to get this item. And a lot of them have it where you're like, you kill this boss and you might get like pretty good drops in terms of GP or resources. And I think that, like, would that be a cool thing to bring into this game, to have a limited boss that you could kill it, and it would be like maybe anyone could kill it. Maybe it scales based. It's like Winter Todd, right? It's damage maybe scales on what level your HP is or whatever. But also the drops you can get from it might be something that you look forward to killing. Like, do you know what I'm trying to explain? Like, can you picture this?
Yeah, I see what you mean. I think that might be dangerous.
You might be dangerous. How come?
It might be dangerous because you only have like a certain amount of time to get the items, and if you don't get them, then you feel bad. So it's almost the same way, or the same thing as giving untradeable drops that will never be offered again, like the Santa hat in 07. But that was tradable. So,
like, what if we had, let's say, okay, let me paint this hypothetical and let you tell me what you think. Let's ignore what the actual most of the uniques would be, but let's say there's like this Christmas boss and it's a giant reindeer. Let's just say the boss is a reindeer. Anyone can kill it. It's a group boss and it has like a lot of HP, but your damage scales based on its percentage on its health, and the damage it does to you is based on the percentage of your health. So level 10 can do it, and level 126 can do it, and you're all still kind of ignoring the equipment you have. You guys are kind of on par in a sense. Now, when it dies, you have a small percentage of getting a pet from it. This pet will return every single year, but you only have 1 month to kill it before it's gone for the year.
No, that's bad.
That's a bad one. See, I'm sitting there like, I got this best idea. I'm going to win Heartless over on this one.
No, I would hate that. I would deeply hate that. Yep.
Interesting. And is it just because you would feel compelled to do it for that month, and then you'd feel bad if you didn't get it?
You'd be forced to do a boss, and then if the boss sucks, then you're still forced to do it. It's like if Next was only available once a year, I'd have to basically do nothing but Next for that entire month, because I know I won't be able to get it until next year. So even if I don't feel like doing it, I can't, which sucks.
See, I think the average RuneScaper is a different breed of MMO player, because I think we see that kind of that boss I just described as in a lot of different MMOs. And here I was about to say, okay, what if you're capped on only able to killing it once a day?
Oh, caps I don't like caps either.
See, I knew that I didn't say it at first, because I was like, it's not going to go over well, because while we see dailies in a ton of games, like a ton of games have dailies. Old school RuneScape is like, the players seem to hate dailies.
I mean, we even have them, like farming.
We have a few, yeah, we do.
And whatever, birdhouses.
Yeah, true. And yeah, farming could be seen as some pseudo daily thing. But anyways, that's my pitch. Maybe it wouldn't work. Maybe I shouldn't work for Jagex for this. But
you see, what I really would like to see is just, and they do it to an extent, is basically just reskinning certain areas of the map.
Yeah,
so
that's
like
fun.
Putting snowfall all over free to play, or turning one of the famous towns that people use a lot into like just completely spooky for Halloween.
Mm-hmm.
Just like changing the landscape up. And maybe having like a little event, like that's basically what I'd like to see. And
how some of the bosses have party hats and Santa hats, which is just fun to. And pets, some pets have it too.
Yeah, that's another great thing at Christmas time. They bring out the Halloween, the hats for pets, which I think is super fun.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just like little aesthetic changes for me is what makes it feel like the holiday. It doesn't need to be tied to an event.
Mm-hmm. Okay, fair enough. So all my ideas that I had just said, I think that's what they would need to do for me to enjoy them more, to have like more compelling, something that's more fun to something that's actually fun to do.
That's fair. And I think that's the real problem with the events, like, because they're so open-ended, there's so many possible ideas.
Yeah.
Like no one is ever going to be satisfied with whatever they pick. Like if we do your idea, there'll be a lot of people who are pissed off. We do my idea, people will be pissed that there's no events anymore. Like I think anywhere you go, people are going to be mad.
Yeah. And it's tough when...
That's a tough one to fix, really. So I think what they're doing is kind of the safe route, right? Like the little 5 to 10 minute quests, some funny jokes in there. and you get all the rewards from previous years. So no one is mad about not missing out on rewards. I think it's just kind of the middle ground option, and maybe it's just kind of the best option they have.
Interesting, very interesting.
And like realistically, like if you don't do them, you're really not missing out on much except like minor Fashionscape.
Yeah, and you can get it
upgrades.
next year. Yeah, exactly.
I mean, sometimes they're best in slot Fashionscape, like the skis.
Oh, those are pretty sweet.
But honestly, I don't have them, and I don't regret not doing it. So
yeah, and you can always look forward to it next year.
Exactly.
I'm curious to hear what other people think. Feel free to like let us know what your opinions are on the events in general. And if you have any ideas on how you can make them better or whatever your thoughts are. That's not gonna be the question of the week though, but feel free to call in and let us know either way. Now, before we move on to the news, I was trying to think of like what events have I enjoyed in old school RuneScape, and it's something that kind of passed us, and I kind of forgot. I remember the very last moment when I was like editing the podcast, so I slipped something in. But it's the April Fool's events in old school RuneScape. It's something that I used to really look forward to, and they've kind of just stopped doing them, which means I forget that they just stopped. I don't even notice. Like April Fool's comes and goes, and I realize that nothing happened. So let me quickly go run through what we've seen in the past, but some of them have always been quite fun. So for 2021, the April Fool's was just a video that Mod Errol made on Twitter about Jad, Grardor, and the Nightmare joining a nightclub. It was only on Twitter, so I didn't even see that. I missed that one. But in 2020, they made a small dev blog called a new skill called Pet Ranching, which was going to be it was basically going to be like Pokemon, but in RuneScape, using your pets and whatnot. So small little dev blog there. Now in 2018, this is when, as we're going backwards in the timeline, but 2018 was when, after 2018 is when the April Fool's jokes got they stopped becoming in the game. Whereas 2018 and going backwards, they were all like some in-game stuff. And if we've noticed, we had to skip over 2019 because they did nothing for 2019. But in 2018, what they did was they released a dev blog called Advanced Warfare, which was going to be a new skill as well, making fun of Call of Duty. And a lot of links there's like a section in the RuneScape forum at the bottom of the page where they had like links to certain stuff. All of those redirected to getting rickrolled basically. But the end game part of it was, as you were skilling, you would every now and then you would get a negative XP drop that you would get. And it would look like the skill orb would make it look like you lost experience for doing something. And I think that was around the time when they were talking about bringing negative experience lamps in. So that was their kind of joke. 2017 was one of my favorite ones. There was a Crack the Clue event that had been going on for over a year. If you don't know what we're talking about, there's some really good YouTube videos. I think RS Will Miss It does a great video on this about Crack the Clue and how it took like 2 years to do it. And basically on Twitter, they would release these clues and you had to figure out what it was, and it gave you the Clue Hunter outfit. But people got stuck on the Helm of Raid Wall, and it took them a really long time to actually do it. So for 2017, what they did is when you were completing treasure trails, as you dug, it would give you the pop-up saying, you have just found the Helm of Raidwald. You didn't actually get anything from it, but it was just like a joke to make people go, oh shit, I found it. Because a lot of people were trying to find it. And you being the first one to find it would have been like crazy. But
that's funny.
The favorite, this is the best one. People like ruined accounts because of it. If you had one defense, so if you're a pure or just starting the game, as you were training your combat skills, you would get a pop-up saying, congratulations, you've leveled your defense to level 2. And it would look like you leveled your defense to level 2. Your actual stat would never change, but you would get that pop-up. And if you're a pure, that's like a huge, oh shit, I might have just ruined.
That's the nightmare situation, yeah.
Yeah. So that was funny. And I think, I've heard, I don't know anyone who actually did it, but people might have seen that and gone ahead and like, fuck it, I'll just level up my defense to 20 then, or level 5, or whatever it was that they wanted to do. In 2016, they brought out a new skill called the cabbage picking skill that you could go out and train. And it was fleshed. It was an actual skill that was fleshed out, that you were able to do more stuff as you leveled it up. like picking a red cabbage and picking different cabbages in general with different using different tools to pick cabbages. And you could level up all the way to level 120. That unlocked the cabbage picking skill cape, which you can then receive from Diango if you go to Draenor. So that was for 2016. And then for 2015, they had some event where it was like the Easter event where you had to like do a quest in game and you would get fake dragon claws because dragon claws hadn't been out yet. So you got like an item that you could use that made it look like you were specking out with dragon claws. 2014, we had the sailing skill introduced as the April Fool's event where you could go sail around. And again, it was kind of like the cabbage picking skill where you could actually level it up. I think you capped at level 20. I'm not seeing here. Oh yeah, it looks like you capped at level 20. And this was because they tried to release a sailing skill into the game, but it failed. So they brought it in on April Fool's as a joke. And then 2013, this is the first, old school RuneScape had been out for like 3 months at this point. And this old school RuneScape is when they brought out a bunch of the rare items. So party hats and maybe not Halloween masks, but they brought out party hats and Easter eggs that would spawn. And when you went to go grab them, it would give you a cabbage or a skirt in your player's inventory. Now, eventually we actually got these items in the game. A lot of us, you can just buy them off the GE for like 5K each. But being an old school RuneScape, if you saw these items spawning, you'd feel like, holy shit, I need to get my hands on this. Because we know in RuneScape 3, these items are worth billions now. So people didn't want to miss out on a possible cash grab. So, quick run through of the April Fool's events. And it's kind of sad that we don't see like those ones. A lot of them were really funny and they were like simple. They weren't like fetch quests or anything like that. I wonder why we don't see them anymore. Maybe it's because they want to dial back what they do for events. Perhaps.
It's hard to say.
It is hard to say. Any final thoughts before we move on over to the news?
Not really. Let's do it.
All right, we got some doozies to talk about, it looks like. All right, let's talk about some news. Now, before we get into it, I should mention Heartless had to go dirt biking, so he was like, you know what? I'm done. I'm not doing this podcast. I gotta go rip some dunes. And I wish I could blame him. That sounds pretty friggin' awesome. So here we are. We're gonna go through the news. I'm gonna tackle this one solo, but we've got some fun stuff to talk about. It's been a bit of a roller coaster. So of course we're gonna kick things off with everyone's favorite upcoming update, the PvP Arena. So some context, where is this PvP Arena coming from? Well, a while ago they had removed the dual arena, something people have been asking for a long time, which I never thought it was actually going to happen because the dual arena has been in the game for a very long time. Originally, it was just a place for people to do 1v1 battles, right? 1v1 duels. And they added this little part of it where you could stake some money, you could bet some money, and if you win, you win it all. So that got added to the game, and slowly but surely, the dual arena became a sand casino where people were going to gamble their money. And they ended up putting a tax on there where, like, I forget how much it was, like 2% maybe. So you put up 100 mil, you'll get 98 mil back. Might have been more than that, but they did it as a way to kind of push back against a lot of real world trading that had been definitely going on. I don't have any like evidence, but I mean, I'm pretty sure Jagex has confirmed how much gets real world traded there. It was just a very toxic place for a lot of people because it kind of starts out like the average person, you're going to have like two paths you go on. You got the one path, which is the positive part of it, which is you go in, maybe you just got a dex scroll from a raid, which is like what, 17 mil right now. So maybe you're loaded already. So 17 mil isn't that crazy amount of money for you, but you're like, you know what? Let's go to the dual arena. Let's stake it. That's 17 mil. If I lose it, big whoop. If I get my money back, that's now what, 34 mil? That's pretty awesome. So you go and you bet it, you win it, you're happy, you lose it, you don't really care. Not that big of a deal. It's like a normal casino, right? The average person is going to go in with like $90, or that's not even that much, a couple $100, but you're okay if you lose it. You're just there for a good time. But then the other people that end up going there is, this game gets broken down into efficiency so often where, we look at everything at like time gates. Oh, this is this is how much gold per hour this boss is, XP per hour this skill is. That's how we see a lot of things. So then essentially what this breaks the game for me. I go out of my way to not think this way, but like if you want like a Dragon Hunter Lance or whatever item it is, you can kind of break it down to like this how much gold per hour I can make doing X content. So it's going to take me this amount of time to get the Dragon Hunter Lance or whatever item it is that you're grinding towards. You can really break it down to how long you're going to spend doing whatever content to get some so-and-so item. Now, the problem with the duel arena is that you can essentially make like 200 mil in 10 minutes, 5 minutes, 2 minutes, whatever it is, however long the duel takes. It's definitely not taking 10 minutes, but you get my point. Like you can get 200 mil in 2 minutes. That looks so much more appealing than doing Vorkath for like 50 hours or however long it would take you to get the same amount of money. Now, of course, the other end is that you can lose gold at the duel arena, which that's where things get a little bit complicated. But on this path that we're talking, the person who gets sucked into the duel arena, it's going to split off again. It forks a little bit. You're either one going to lose your entire bank because you stake all your money and your bank is now empty. So you're like, now what? I'm going to start over and make an iron. Usually that's what people do because they have no items. The other side of things is you end up winning and you get a ton of money. So now you have bills and bills and bills. But the thing is like as I mentioned, like obtaining gold is like the carrot on the stick for a lot of us, or maybe obtaining items or obtaining a certain level in a skill, whatever it is. Like you have that carrot on the stick that really gets you from point A to point B being whatever the hell you want it to be. You want point B to be a twisted bow. That's great. That's your path towards the twisted bow. Now, if you have like unlimited money because you've just been lucky at the duel arena, suddenly, like, what's the point of getting twisted bow? Sure, you have it, but what are you going to do? Go grind some Hydra because you're going to go get some more money? That's like suddenly that carrot on the stick that was like, let's make more money to buy more items is gone. You don't have that carrot on the stick and you're just left with like, well, I can buy any item in the game, but what's the point of having the twisted bow if I don't care about making money anymore because I have all the money I need? The twist, maybe if you're pet hunting, but I don't know if that's how likely. I don't know how often people are pet hunting once they just get bills and bills at the duel arena. But anyway, so a lot of people, they get a lot of money and then they go, well, now what? They make an iron or they make some other account. Now, of course, this isn't for everyone, but you see the problem it kind of heads towards. But there's one other piece that I forgot to mention that I didn't mention already when it comes to like making a ton of money. Okay, you buy a bunch of items, or what a lot of people might do is, I got all this bill. Let's real world trade it. May as well get some money back, right? And then so a lot of real world trading starts happening at the duel arena. They eventually removed it. Now we have this open spot, and I think this is where they're bringing the PvP arena. Now, another thing to mention, though, is that for a while, this had been teased about happening in the Kingdom of Varlamore and Zaya, right? When they brought out Zaya, they had a roadmap, and on that roadmap was the Colosseum. And as we're going to talk about, a lot of the aesthetics of the gear you get from this, it really is inspired by like Roman gladiators, right? So the Colosseum would have made a lot of sense, but it looks like it's coming into the duel arena instead. Now, the PvP arena is going to be a 1v1 fight, similar to what the duel arena was kind of supposed to be, but it's going to be like it's like duel arena and Last Man Standing had a baby, okay? And here you will have, you have your 1v1 fights that are just like the duel arena, but you will have predetermined stats like Last Man Standing. So it doesn't matter if you're level 3 or you're a max level. When you go into the PvP arena, all your stats will be standardized. So this means it's really going to break down on how good you are as a player and not how good your gear is or your level is, right? There's going to be, right now they have 3 different builds that are going to cycle out each week. You have a maxed account, like a max PK account, which means 75 attack, 70 defense, 99s across the board. This will open you up to like the Armadillo Godsword or the Toxic Staff of the Dead or some of the Barrows items. It's up, you choose, right? That's you choose what items fit, but that's what that opens up to. Then you have a Zerker, 60 attack, 45 defense. So, maybe you're going to have Void. Maybe you're going to have a fighter torso and berserker helmet, some vengeance, and then you have the pure, which is 1 defense, 60 attack. So of course, maybe got a Gmaul, maybe got a DDS. What are you going to choose? Because that's another part of it too. There's going to be a bit of game knowledge required on top of you just being a good PvPer, because you're going to want to know what's kind of optimal to bring in these builds, right? But the nice thing that this is what I hope, that it doesn't break down to like an actual meta. It'd be nice if there's some preference involved as well. So I'll give the example with the pure, because I've been doing a lot of PKing on my pure since the bank keys came out. And I've been having a lot of fun, but you'll bump into a lot of people who kind of have, they have a slight difference in equipment because they just have a different preference in how they PK. And it also depends on how good you are, right? So with a pure at 60 attack and 1 defense, you're gonna you can bring the Gmaul with you to spec them out, right? The Gmaul hits really hard. You can combo really well. You have basically 1 shot with it to hit it off to combo them out. So it's kind of like a shotgun. You have 1 shot, but that 1 shot has the potential to do a lot of damage. So much so that you just, boom, you KO them. But the Gmaul is a little bit tricky to use, and like a shotgun, you get like 1 shot. Whereas when I go PKing, I bring the DDS. The DDS will do more damage overall, but it's not as bursty as the Gmaul. You can't do as much damage as a Gmaul in like 1 tick, but instead you can spec them out 4 times, and this gives you 4 chances of KOing them. It's also good if you also want to rely on, hey, you know what? I'm going to drain their food supply. I'm going to make this more of an endurance fight. We're going to see who runs out of food first. So the DDS could be pretty strong for that as well. And it's just easier to use. So you can choose between the 2, right? Which ones do you prefer? So it's going to be like that for each of the builds, which should make things quite exciting. Now, this is what's really cool about the PvP arena. And I think it's going to be how this PvP arena is more of a success than a failure. But you can queue up for PvP fights anywhere in the game for the most part. You don't need to, it's not like last man standing where you need to go to the last man standing area. You then need to queue up in the lobby and wait for enough people to join. You don't have to do that. You could be out there skilling or doing something else and you want to break. Boom, you queue up for a fight. And as you're wood cutting or whatever it is you're doing, you wait to get queued up with another person. And then boom, you get a notification and let's go do this fight. So then you transport over. Now, when you win the fight, or I guess potentially lose, the point system will be broken up into 2 different types of points. You have your reward points that you'll earn from winning fights, and these points will be used to buy items from the PvP arena shop. And the other type of points are going to be called rank points. And this is basically like an ELO system where the idea is your rank points will go up and down depending on how well you are. And eventually you'll find yourself at a rank point level where you'll be facing other people who are the exact same skill type as you, right? That's the idea. And really, when you get to that bracket, you should be winning half the time, because if you're just as good as your opponent, they should be winning half the time as well. That's the idea. It's a way to make it so that you can learn, because the problem with the last man standing rank system is like, I could be the lowest rank there is for last man standing, and I could just be thrown into a match against the number 1 player. It's not super balanced like that. And I don't think it was really intended to be. It was just supposed to be this new number we can grind for the high scores. Whereas these rank points will really face you off. Like the top rank will be facing the best players. Now, I might have mentioned that people feel very strongly about this update. A lot of people have been voicing their opinions on Twitter and Reddit, and it seems like a lot of people don't like this update. A lot of people want to be voting no. Now, it could be the vocal minority, just being the loudest. That actually is usually the case with anything. The vocal minority make it seem like a bigger part of the community dislikes or likes something. But it's hard. It's kind of hard to say. And maybe the people who do like this update kind of keep quiet a little bit. But I mentioned that they don't like this update. It's not so much the arena itself. I haven't actually seen too much negative opinions on the arena itself. It all boils down to the actual items, right? So before we get into the items and why some people like it, I guess first I want to mention that I don't actually share the same opinion as many of the people who don't like these items. I'm on the opposite side where I do like these items. I can understand some of the arguments that the other side has made, and I did a lot of like digging in to see what are people not happy about. Because I was curious to see a lot of people aren't happy about it. Why is it? And we know a lot of people aren't happy with any PvP update for the most part because if you're a PVMer, it sucks to get nerfed, like Dehyde or the Bulwark. And it's even worse when your enemy is getting buffed, right? And that's how it seems, right? The PVMer versus the PKer. PKer is on one team, PVMers are on the other team. It's a little bit more complicated. It doesn't quite work that way, because PvPers tend to fight PvPers over PVMers. And people will disagree, but I've been doing a lot of PKing and on my peer, and that tends to be the case. I see a lot more PKers they get tunnel vision when they see each other because they're going to get more money if they get them, especially with this key system. You see someone with a key, oh boy, that could turn out to be a lot of money you made. Anyways, that's besides the point. But before we do get into the items on what people dislike, another point that people don't like, and it's this like slippery slope argument, which I 100% understand, is this piece of content will not be allowed to be voted on by everyone. You will have to meet a certain criteria in order to vote. And the criteria is a bit of a secret. It's not just like get one kill in the wilderness and you can vote. It's they don't say it. They say that there's going to be a certain criteria that people will meet that will allow you to vote on this update. And a lot of people don't like that because, if you're a PVM or you're in the wilderness and you can't vote on these new items coming in, yet you're going to die because of these new items coming in, it'd be nice to have a say on that, right? Now, on the other hand, we have seen quite often that the reason they're doing it like this because we have seen quite often in the past a lot of spite voting happening in whenever it comes to PvP updates. Now, I used to really think spite voting never really happened. I always thought people said it happened and it didn't really happen. And I used to say that all the time because I was like, you know what? PvP updates are just bad and that's why they're not passing. And I think largely that is the case. But I do now think there is a lot of spite voting that does happen. A lot of people will vote no to all PvP stuff, even if it's good for the game, because they don't want the PvP community to be stronger in any sort of way. And the only reason I say that is because they had pulled way back. They tried pulling Teleblock being a free-to-play spell. And I thought for sure that was going to pass. Of course it's going to pass. Why wouldn't it? Right now, PKing in free to play is kind of rough. There's just like unspoken agreement where you're like, yeah, let's just not teleport out. We're just going to fight to the death. Because the thing is like if you can teleport out, it's really hard to get kills in free to play, right? The damage you can output as a free to play player is so much lower than members servers, and if you can't teleblock them, then they can teleport whenever they feel like it. And I always thought teleblock would for sure come into free to play, but it failed not once, but 2 times. I think even 3 times it failed. And then Jackus was like, we're just going to bring it into the game. Which at what point is like, what's the point of polling, right? Why would you, they said it was an integrity change, which honestly, the part of me is like, I think it should have been in free to play. At the same time, you pulled it 3 times and it failed, right? So what do you do? But it was a piece of content that I was like, or it was an update that I was very confused on who would be voting no on this, right? Is there a lot free to play players can't even vote, so what? They can't vote on this. So it felt like a lot of people were voting no because they were like, it's a PvP buff, even though it's free to play. Let's vote no. You know what I mean? Like it doesn't. Any PVMer on a member's world not going to affect them because Teleblock is a member's spell. So anyways, that's where I was like, okay, maybe there is a chunk of people who will vote no on anything that is PvP. That gets a little bit more complicated. I understand why they have to put certain criteria up so that it doesn't just get spite voted on. But a lot of people don't like that. And I can understand where it's like, it could be a slippery slope. You know what I mean? Like if you bring out some piece of content, do you only let people who have completed the Inferno vote on certain things? Ideally, everyone's, you know what I mean? It does get tricky, but I understand why they have to do it. Do I agree or disagree? I don't know. I will say that the PvP arena can't just not have any uniques, because then we'll just get filled with like gold like items that are just worth GP, and then it's gonna get farmed. Like a lot of gold farmers will go to use it, and it's just gonna suck. Anyways, we'll get to that afterwards. So let's get to the rewards. The rewards are basically broken down into two types of rewards. We have one that are reskins and recolors, and we have new uniques. So the skins and recolors all look pretty good. You can go on the dev blog to see what is actually getting recolored. It is a lot of PVM items. It's a mix. So you have a Dragon Claws, which are going to be recolored to look black. They look pretty sweet. Dragon Warhammer is going to get a Ceradomin recolor, so it's going to go really nicely with Justiciar. Armadillo and Bandos are all getting like a new recolor, or I shouldn't call it recolor, like almost like a new skin. They're just making it's an ornament kit. It's gonna make it look a little bit different. And basically the Bandos, it's gonna cover up your little chesties. No longer you're just walking around with your nipples exposed. You're gonna have a little tunic underneath. It looks good. It does look pretty awesome. And the Armadillo is also gonna look pretty good. I guess really what they're doing is they're sexifying it, right? Armadillo was always like a little promiscuous, you know what I mean? A lot of midriff was showing, and you got your, oh, is that an ankle I see? And then we all know Bandos, you got a little strap that just covers the nipples there. It still looks cool. It just removes a little bit of the promiscuity from it. Jagex was like, there's too much e-dating going on in RuneScape. We need to tone these assets down. People getting too riled up when they're PVMing. Anyway, so yeah, recolors, reskins are all pretty easy to bring into the game, because they don't tend, unless they look bad, they don't do any harm into the game. They usually look pretty good too. So easy rewards to bring in. Now, the second part is where people have problems, and it is a bunch of new uniques coming into the game. And really, the reason why people don't like it is because these could be these are all PvP only versions of other items. So this will allow PvPers to skip parts of the game. And I put skip in quotation marks. So let's take a look at what items are being replaced. So we have the first ones, which are going to be basically, these are Barrows gloves. These are going to be Barrows gloves, but you only need 20 defense instead of 41 defense. And you can even upgrade them to make them even better than Barrows gloves, which will increase their defense requirement to 40. So this would allow a PvPer to not have to do Recipe for Disaster, which, if anyone knows, that's a lot of questing, a lot of skilling. So the Barrows gloves could be now obtained through doing just this PvP arena. And again, you can even buff them to be 40 defense, and they'll be even better than Barrows gloves. But interesting part is that the first tier of called the wristbands of the arena. So the first tier of them that requires 20 defense. This might bring a whole new pure back into the scene. And that's not really new pure, because we used to have initiate pures back in the day, which were 20 defense pures. This allowed them to wear mystics and allowed them to wear initiate. Now we don't really see it anymore, because 20 defense levels, that's like 6 or 7 combat levels. That's a lot of combat levels just to wear initiate or mystics. It's not really worth it. But now this might make things more worth it with only needing 20 defense. Next is the Centurion Cuirass, and this is basically the PvP only version of the fighter torso. And it actually has slightly higher defense stats than the torso. So this is going to be even better than a fighter torso. But this means, again, a player can skip the Barbarian Assault grind and go straight to the fighter torso from the PvP arena. Again, and this would be better than the fighter torso. And lastly, this is going to be, there's 3 tiers of this type of armor, but it's going to be Void. And what makes this armor even better than Void, you don't need gloves required. So you can wear the Barrows gloves, or you can wear whatever gloves that is that you want to use. Whereas Void, you need to wear Void gloves, which don't really give you any stats. But there will be 3 tiers. One that requires 0 defense, one that requires 50 defense, and one that requires 75 defense. So again, a level 1 pure level 1 defense pure could use this, the first tier of this armor. And this is bringing, again, another possible build into the game. Level 50 defense and level 75 defense pures. So that makes things quite interesting. Level 4, and I don't know how the pure community is going to feel. Like, do they look at this and go, ugh, I don't want to level my defense to level 50 from 42? Because that's what, 3 combat levels. When you have built a pure, sometimes you're like really attached and you have everything planned out all the way to the combat level. Last thing you want to do is then go up 3 combat levels, because that is, you could be facing people with 9 extra strength, 9 extra range, 9 extra mage. That could be a pretty big deal if you're fighting. And of course, with this, you'll have the mage, melee, and range helmets, which make it like void. And then lastly, there is going to be new prayers meant for only PvP. And this will basically be chivalry, and it will basically be piety, but you don't need to quest, and it will require the prayer level, but you don't need to quest for it, and you won't need the defense that's required for the quest. So you can essentially get us at a much lower level. I should mention that the piety does require 40 defense, but that's much different than 65 defense. Okay, so let's break it down. What are people upset about? Let's ignore the whole we're buffing PvPers, which will make anyone vote no matter what item it is. Maybe we'll get to that afterwards. But let's talk about the actual skipping of content. And that's what people that's the argument people are using about why they don't like these items. So the first one being Barrow's gloves, right? So yeah, people will be able to now equip what is essentially Barrow's gloves if they were never able to beforehand, right? Because it requires only 20 defense. I think that if somebody has the ability to grind for Barrow's gloves, that I would say that they still would want Barrow's gloves, because these wristbands I don't think anyone's going to want to bring these deep into the wilderness, because if you lose them, it depends how hard it is to get them, right? We don't really know how easy how easy it'll be to grind out the points to buy these. But Barrow's gloves are what, like 160k or something that you buy from a shop. Like, I think if you have the ability to get Barrow's gloves, you still might want to, so that you can bring it deep into the wilderness. Now, because Barrow gloves require 41 defense, both pures with 40 defense and 20 defense can't get Barrow's gloves. But if you're a void PKer, I think this isn't going to be that big of a deal. So it'll allow them to skip questing. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? That's a great question, because the recipe for disaster grind is really, 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 really long. And just to get your PKer gloves, that is quite daunting to have to grind towards. That is a very, very long grind. Barrow's gloves do still serve a purpose for main accounts in irons, right? It allows you to, outside of PvP, we're not going to talk about PvP right in a second. But people can skip Barrow gloves on their main accounts. It does have the aspect of it being a hybrid glove, which is very, very nice. So in some situations, you're still going to want Barrow's gloves over any of the other gloves. Let's say Dagonoth Kings, for example. But if you don't need the hybrid aspect of it, you can skip these gloves, right? We have the Tormented Bracelet, which is better. We have the Hydra gloves. I forget what they're called. I don't want to look them up. But we have the new melee gloves, which are better than Barrow's. And now we have the range Van Braces, which are better than Barrow's. So, I mean, people essentially can kind of skip that grind if they have a lot of money and they have the stats for it. I think that's kind of the weaker argument of this one, because Barrow gloves are still very, very good. So I don't think, I guess I should say, I don't think people are able to skip questing with these new gloves, because the people who will get the most benefit from these are the people who could never get Barrow's gloves to begin with. So it doesn't matter whether or not they could have quested to do it or they don't have to, because they couldn't quest. 20 defense and 40 defense. Barrow's gloves being 41 defense, like, you're not, a person with 40 defense isn't skipping anything. They're just now getting the ability to use an item that they originally weren't able to use. That is where the problem could lie. Now, if you have 42 defense, like I mentioned in your Void PKer, I could still see you wanting to grind at the Barrow's gloves, because if you're deep wildy PKing, you're not bringing your Void gloves. How often, when you're PVMing or out in the wilderness, how often do you bump into someone with full Void or anything like that? I would very, very rarely. All these items are going to see their use in like 1v1 fights or PvP or the PvP worlds for the most part. Next, we'll move on to the Centurion Cuirass, which is the fighter torso equivalent. At first I was like, you know what, this one's a bit of a doozy because you can skip the Barbarian torso grind. You can go straight and use this, and it's actually better. And what I was trying to do is I was trying to think, like, is anyone else able to skip this grind? Like, they are, right? You can, if you have the money, like when you get Bandos, the Bandos top, you never need a fighter torso again. Maybe if you're doing Nightmare. That's such a niche situation though. But the Bandos torso, the Bandos chest plate full on replaces this item, right? And it's way better. It's got way better defense and stuff. So you are already able to skip this grind. So I don't know if I agree too much about people saying like it's not fair for PvPers to skip this grind, because PVMers can already skip this grind by getting the Bandos. But now we move on to the Void piece, and this one's tricky. Is anyone able to skip the Void grind by using this gear? I don't know. At first I was like, yeah, this one is where it can be this is a bit of a doozy. But again, are you going to gain 8 more levels to wear this armor? So you're now for someone who has 42 defense isn't skipping the Void grind by getting this gear, because you still need 50 defense to get the upgraded version. And same with the 75 defense. So, man, I don't know. This also feels similar to the first situation, where this is just giving the ability for people who weren't able to use this gear to now have the ability to use a Void equivalent, right? Like a level 1 defense can now get their own Void, whereas beforehand they couldn't. So they weren't skipping they weren't skipping the pest control grind to begin with. They're just now able to get a new piece of gear. 50 and 75. You're having to break your build in order to get the upgraded version. So are they also skipping the grind? Yes, they are, but they're also kind of like reconfiguring their entire account. So it's kind of, maybe it's a trade-off, right? So yeah, that one, I don't know. And then finally the prayers. The prayer's a little bit dicey. I don't know. That's a weird one. I think they could have done a better idea to bring that in, but the prayer ones I could see being a little bit more tricky in that sense, because now these people can now, it is much stronger prayer that can be used in PvP. So yeah, I understand the arguments. I don't know if I fully agree, but I guess my question, what I would wonder is, like, we've always been asking, when they bring up any PvP update and they need to tie rewards to it, people are always upset when they're tying a bunch of gold to the reward shop or PVM items or skilling items. People don't want that, because you look at a PvP update and you think PvP rewards should come from PvP updates. PvPers should get their upgrades from PvP. And basically it's a way of saying PVMers shouldn't have to PvP in order to get their upgrades, right? Like the dragon pickaxe and the wilderness rings are like the best example of this, where if you're an iron, you have to go into the wilderness. Like, those 2 spots force you to go in the wilderness. You need a dragon pickaxe, so you got to go into the wilderness and kill some wilderness bosses. Now they are removing that eventually, so that argument won't work as much in the future. And then the wilderness rings, right? You have the tyrannical ring from Callisto, which gives you a crush bonus, which you want if you have a dragon warhammer, and you have the ring of the gods, and those items. So you do get forced if you need those items. But besides that, you're not really forced outside of those areas. Yeah, there's the the chaos altar that you can grind, or the black chins that you can get, which are both the best place to get experience. But you're not quite forced to do it. You have red chins you can go to. You have the gilded altar and your POH that you can go to. So the only difference is that it's a risk versus reward, but there's nothing unique that comes from the wilderness outside of the rings and the pickaxe. Maybe the wards if you want to get the Obdium and Malediction ward. I might be missing some stuff, but that's what people don't like. PVMers hate when that happens, and I get it. I think that would be very, very annoying. Even though I like wilderness PVM content myself, and I find it kind of fun. And I like how much gold gets dropped and how chill it is when there's no PKers around. It's definitely frustrating when you need to grind out a dragon pickaxe and you have to go to the wilderness. So it'd be nice when that gets removed. So we've been asking that PvP items come from PvP related content, right? This was a big argument when Rev Caves came out and they had just like a bunch of resources dropped from the Revs. And eventually they brought like PVM wilderness weapons, which were like this middle ground. But people were like, why can't PvP items come from the Rev Caves? So we're seeing that with the PvP update now. We're seeing PvP items and people aren't happy with them. So what I wonder is, if we didn't have these items and we had a different set of items, would people still be happy, or will people always be unhappy when there's useful PvP items being introduced? Because they have to be useful for people to want them, right? And if they're not useful, people aren't going to grind them. But if they're useful, then they're also going to be buffing PvPers, which people who aren't PvPers aren't going to like if they're going to be targeted by them down the road. So that's what I wonder. And also, I think, I'm going to mention again, these PvP items. The reason I don't think it's as big of a deal is because I don't think they will see that much use outside of PvP worlds, or maybe Edgeville if that ever gets brought back. I think for the most, again, I never see people in Void that are at, in 20 wilderness or anything like that, even though they would potentially keep them safe. They just still don't bring it in there because I guess it's not worth losing and having to grind them out again. What I do like about this gear is that they are bringing possibly some new builds. We'll have it might kind of shake up the meta a little bit and make people make choices. Hey, do I stick with my peer that I have? Do I make a brand new peer, or do I ruin or change my peer completely? Do I level its defense up a few? So I think that could be a good thing. That could also be a bad thing. I'm not too sure. I think I have the awareness to say that like this could come out and this could be not as great of an idea as I thought it would be. But as I read this, I think people have a bit of an overreaction. That's my opinion on it. But I know a lot of people, you're listening, you might be like, I 100% disagree. But I think a lot of the arguments, while are somewhat valid, are maybe misguided is the word, right? People complaining about the fighter torso equivalent. It's like, yeah, but we already have the Bandos chest plate. So we can already skip the the barbarian assault grind ourselves. So, but yeah, anyways, that's the PvP arena. Overall, I am looking forward to it. We'll see what happens to the items. Again, these are all pulled. So if you meet the hidden criteria, if you're in the cool kids club and you get a vote on this, we'll see if it passes or not. But I just hope the PvP arena isn't flooded with a bunch of like gold, like a gold, like items that can be sold for gold, because then it's just gonna be freaking farmed. That's the problem. It just gets farmed. These uniques were supposed to be a way for like, okay, we'll keep people in the PvP arena that aren't going to like just do it because they like, oh, I'll just sink my rank down low and just farm it so I can get a bunch of gold. Okay, we can move on. There is another poll question in here though about a circlet of water, which is going to act as a water skin when you wear it. It's gonna be a helmet. It's gonna come from the Beneath Cursed Sands quest. So you're gonna be, it looks like people are gonna get real thirsty out in the desert, which is interesting. It's kind of like a mechanic that we don't really see too often. Anyways, the PvP arena, guys, let me know what you think. Let me know, what are your thoughts on the PvP arena? I've been seeing all week the subreddit has been blowing up and people are kind of, it sucks because you can't often find a good debate, because if someone makes a good argument, whether it's for or against whatever update, if the majority disagrees, they get downvoted. So you don't see the good back and forth arguments. But I guess I can see both sides. I do like these items, but I can see why people don't like these items. But I wonder, my question would be like, yeah, if we had different items in there, would that same part of the community, would some of them be like, okay, these items are good, even though they are going to be useful in PvP? I don't know about that. But anyways, let's move on. We got one more dev blog to cover, and that is the Easter 2020. The 2022 event is here. It looks like the reward you can get is a nice little straw hat with some eggs and flowers on it. There might be more tied to it. Sometimes they have that, but yeah, you can start this, what looks to be Al-Kharid. And if you missed out on any of the past Easter events, like the good old Easter football armor, you can go do this event and you'll get all of that as well. Next, we got Revenant Caves changes. They added this like stairway into the Revenant Caves, which is one-way access, and it is only used to escape from the Rev Caves. Yeah, I'm not sure why they brought this in here, but if they wanted it to be a way for people to escape easier, then it does that trick, because anytime I've needed to escape or someone else has needed to escape, this stairway allowed them to escape. So a little interesting. And lastly, well, last but not least, combat. Last but not least, but not last. This isn't last. This is almost last. Combat achievements have gotten updated. So, there used to be some tasks that required you to do 100 KC. It then got lowered because people saw it kind of a nuisance. For instance, if you needed 100 KC to get a task, the idea is like, oh, you got 100 KC, then you're really good at the fight. Well, you don't need 100 KC to get good at the fight. You need like 20. So they lowered it down to 20. And same with like this one that was 250. That's a lot of kills. That can take a long time. That's just a time gate. It doesn't really show you how good you are. You can probably just as good at 250 KC as you would be at 50 KC. So they went and lowered a bunch of them as well to make it a little bit more easier or a little less time consuming. And now this is last. The open beta for the Dead Man finale reruns is happening on April 21st. So they are going to try it again and we'll see how it goes. Very fun stuff. Woo! Okay, guys, we did get through that. That is that's great. Well, I'll be interested to see. Did I mention it? I forgot if I mentioned it. One thing I like about the PvP arena is it looks awesome. That's one thing it has going for it. It all has this Roman gladiator aesthetic to it that makes it look super, super cool. It's got this whole gladiator theme, and I think they all look really good. So whether you hate what the items are, but you can at least say, you know what, they look pretty cool. So at least it has that going for it. All right, guys, we're going to take a quick break and head on over to the Grand Exchange. Okie dokie, we're taking a quick little break and heading on over to the Grand Exchange, where we get to talk about how you can support the show. And as we've been doing for the past 2 episodes, and we got 2 more to go, well, 1 more after this, is we are currently sponsored by Manscaped. It is a hair care company. Now, before I talk about one of their products, the first thing we got to do is we got to get into the advertising mode and read this quick ad. So I showcased my proper ad reading skills, and I showcased what it would sound like if it was the Power Thirst version, but I think we need to do a little sultry jazz radio station ad read. So please bear with me. Support for the Wilderness Podcast is brought to you by Manscaped, who is the best in men's below-the-waist grooming. Their packages are precision-engineered tools for your family jewels. Manscaped's Performance Package, the ultimate men's hygiene bundle. Join over 4 million men worldwide who trusted Manscaped with this exclusive offer, 20% off and free worldwide shipping with the code wilderness at manscaped.com. If my math is correct, that's about 8 million balls. Guys, halfway through I realized this isn't jazz. This is those those call-in dating landlines where it's like, there's sexy single women in an area waiting for you to call. That's what it turned into. I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to I didn't mean for that to happen. It went differently in my head. So we're not quite there as a voice actor ourselves, but that's fine. We'll use the code wilderness at manscaped.com. You get 20% off and free worldwide shipping, which is pretty neat. So the product of today, the first time we did this, I talked about the Lawnmower 4.0, which is the razor meant for like shaving your down below. I actually do like it, and I think it's like if you're gonna buy something from Manscaped, that's like their what do they call it? Their flagship item. But this time they sent me four things I wanted to look at. The next one we're gonna talk about is called the Crop Reviver, and it is ball toner. What does that mean? This is cologne for your testicles. If you are someone who's like needs cologne for your testicles, you're gonna love this. If you're out there Tinderizing or you're out there bumbling around and you're like dating, this little spritzer might up your game, right? If it you spray a little bit on, you let it dry out before you go on your date, and bada boom, bada bing. It's better to smell good than it is to smell bad. Now, I know a lot of us aren't going, let's be real, we're not going on dates, but sitting on your computer chair, it gets a little sweaty down there. So just for your own, if you're sitting there and you get that pungent smell after, you got 6 hour logged for the second time today, you might, just to feel a little bit better about yourself, you spritz it down there, and boom, you can keep scaping and you can smell good. And this way, when your mom walks into the room and she was like, open a goddamn window in here, it stinks. It friggin' stinks. They walk in, they'll be like, good job, my RuneScaping son. It smells good in here. So I tested this out, and it is just like cologne. It says to let it dry off beforehand, but it was called ball toner. And I thought, like, I don't know what toner was. I thought it was like, like toner for like a printer. I thought it was gonna I thought it sprayed it and it would like bronze your like testicles. So if you like wanted, when you like go tanning, you get spray on tan. I thought this was spray on tan for your balls, and it wasn't. So anyways, this is called the Crop Reviver. And if you get the Performance Package 4.0, you get all of this stuff together. So again, it might up your game. It's also vegan. Maybe there's like a problem in the past of people putting bacon grease in their ball toners. I don't know if that would be a good thing or a bad thing. Anyways, so guys, that's Wilderness. On checkout, you get 20% off. Alrighty, but hey, if you are not looking to buy any products, but you're like, I still want to throw a few bucks to my way, which is super, super kind, you can do that at patreon.com/TheWildernessPodcast, or you can go to buymeacoffee.com/dills. So, of course, if you are our top tier super supporter, you get a shout out every single episode. So thank you very much to Z-Space, Yay Fiber, Szechuan, Splemo, Scott Bainbridge, P. Jackals, Strosity, and Yulfi Ferrick. Thank you guys so much for your ongoing support. It truly means a lot. And thank you to everyone else who signed up on the Patreon crew. You guys are awesome. Really do appreciate it. But if you don't want to sign up on Patreon, you want to do a one-time donation, and you want to maybe like buy me a virtual coffee, you can go to buymeacoffee.com/dills to do that. And I have to thank Chick and 2JZ Soup for sending some coffees my way this week. But hey, finally, if you're using the Discord Nitro, you get some free boosts. You can support us also by boosting the Discord server. So I want to thank Battle Staves and Chick again for boosting the server and giving us that URL, which is discord.gg/thewilderness. Thank you guys so much for all of your support. Okay. Let's take a quick break, and we're all right, let's wrap up. We got some phone calls. Yeah, let's do it. All right, we are back. Actually, a little bit of a lie. I know I mentioned that Harless was going to be joining us, but you know what? He just messaged me. He's still out shredding the dunes. I don't know much about dirt biking. Actually, I had like family members who were they're like really into dirt biking. And, I was always told we are a Yamaha family and the Kawasaki's. No. Like we don't tolerate no Kawasaki's. Honda dirt bikes, those were okay and they would tolerate them. And actually, my uncle would buy them and he'd like repair them and stuff like that. They were kind of like the dinky bikes that would be given to someone else who needed one. But yeah, we were always a Yamaha family. There was a yellow dirt bike too. I forget what brand that one was. Anyways, dirt biking is pretty fun. I'm kind of jealous, to be honest. Anyways, guys, we're back. We have some calls to go through. So last week's question of the week was, who is your favorite boss, or what is your favorite boss in old school RuneScape? So let's dive in to the calls, and of course, the illustrious Matakaz 1 coming in with the first answer.
Woo! Well, I am back again. It is Matakos 1, the number one Matakos from Austria, I hope. So I didn't even have to think about my answer for this week's question. I literally knew right away because I had such a roller coaster ride with this boss when I was in like 3rd or 4th grade, wanting to be, of course, the greatest mage in all of Gielinor of all time. And I'm going to give you a hint at who it is and give you a few seconds to try to guess before I reveal the answer, just for fun.
Oh boy.
So it's the guardian of the ice diamond in Desert Treasure.
Oh God.
4,
I don't remember any
3,
of those bosses except for the
2,
stranger.
1.
That thing was pretty sweet.
Camille.
Oh.
I think that's how you pronounce it.
Yeah, okay.
So Desert Treasure is my all-time favorite quest. And I remember killing Camille and then slowly dying from the cold with only a third of a pizza left, hiking up the ice path after you kill him. And I was literally crying. I was sitting on my desk. I was like 8 years old. I was thinking I was going to die after all I had just accomplished. And then all of a sudden, a kind stranger came by and gave me a shark. Holy shit. That was the greatest OSRS trade I ever made. Bleibt tapfer, RuneScaper und RuneScaperinnen. Talk to you soon.
Awesome. Matakos 1, thank you so much for the call in once again. Yeah, I don't remember any of the bosses' names from Desert Treasure. Camille, though, I do recognize because when I do Nightmare Zone, I've brought Camille into my Nightmare Zone matches when I need to get like points for imbues, and I always regret it. I can't remember what it is, but something about that boss sucks. It either freezes you or you need to do some weird mechanic to kill it. I can't remember, but it's I always accidentally enable it and it sucks. But yeah, Desert Treasure is an epic quest, and I remember when I was a young one playing this game, I completed Desert Treasure and it took like at least 8 hours, and then I completed it on my pure as well, which was really difficult. I remember having such a hard time with it. And then I had a friend who was like, wow, you've completed it twice. Can you please do it for me? It's too hard for me to do it. So I beat it on my buddy's account as well. And I remember it took about 6 hours. No joke, because I remember I got home from school. I hopped on it at like 4 p.m. right away, and I played it until it was time to go to bed. So I remember it taking quite some time. It's a very epic quest, but whew, yeah, I don't know. Everything was slower back in the day. But yeah, that's a good memory tied to a boss. I don't know. I'm trying to think if I have any memories like that tied to quest bosses, but I don't think so. Or if I do have them tied, they're not positive. All right, let's get into our next call from Turkleton.
Hey guys, it's Turkleton here. Just wanted to answer the boss question. For me, it's definitely Wintertard. I never used to like Wintertard, but after Bingo, yeah, it's definitely my top one. Jesus, I hate Wintertard so much.
Wait, you hate Winter Todd so much? Winter Todd's is a funny one. It's like it's always busy. You have a lot of new Iron Men who start off there because you get like a bunch of supplies and all that stuff. But one thing that I love about Winter Todd, and it's the same thing that I really like about Temperos, is I had a friend who returned to old school RuneScape after quitting for such a long time. He was like level 80 combat, and he was like, I want to do something. Can we do some group activity together? And I'm like a maxed account, so I could maybe I tried to bring some low level friends like Bandos, and we got one kill in, and they all had to teleport or they died, and they didn't have that much fun there. But my buddy was asking about what's some group content we can do? Can we do any bossing? Like what's something that's fun? And Temperos had just come out, so we went and did some Temperos, and it was like it was a good time. And he was like, "Yo, this is pretty fun. Like, is there anything else like this?" And I was like, "Well, let's go to Winter Todd." And yeah, we went to Winter Todd for a bit, and yeah, it was a lot of fun. It didn't matter that I was maxed, or at least max combats, and he was level 80. We both were able to do Winter Todd, no problem. We don't really have a whole lot of bosses that kind of work that way. Zolcano kind of works that way, but you need, there is a lot of requirements. So Temperos and Winter Todd are both pretty nice in the fact that like if you're a friend who's returning and maybe probably doesn't have a bunch of quests done, and they're just like mid game or like still early game, it's whatever you want to call level 80 combat, it's awesome to just go kick over to Winter Todd. And I actually, dare I say it, I actually do find Winter Todd kind of fun. I enjoy it more than Temperos. Maybe it's the XP drops are very nice. That's hard to say. All right, let's get into our next caller.
Hey, Dills and Heartless, it's D. Claude calling in from the Midwest for the question of the week. I'd have to say it's probably an unpopular opinion as well as my favorite boss, but right now it's Vedion. I like just being out in the wilderness and just having the thrill of escaping PKers, and I just really want that pet. I'm coming up on a little over 500 KC now, so hopefully it's soon. Give me that wild RNG, boys.
D-Claude, thank you so much for the call. Yeah, Vedion would definitely fall in the unpopular opinion, and and crazy to say that's your favorite boss as well. I think it has a lot of potential. Yeah, I don't know. I think I want to like Vedion a lot more than I do. The drops aren't bad. The kill itself is kind of the fight. Yeah, I'm not. That is an unpopular opinion. I don't like Vedion at all. I don't like Cinder. I don't like the way it looks. I don't like the fight. The loot's not bad. I don't like where it is in the wilderness is. It's you're in a tough spot. Did I mention the way it looks? The pet is also not one of my favorite pets. So yeah, that's a good one. It's interesting. When they rework these bosses, I assume Vedion's going to be the one that they rework with it. It's going to be interesting to see what they do with it, because that fight is an actual, very hands-on fight where there's skeletal dogs that spawn and he shoots these electric things, and there's a lot going on there, but nobody actually does that content. It might be fun to get a group and go do some group bossing over at Vedion. But yeah, the Ring of the Gods, that's a nice drop though. I'll give them that. So yeah, that was last week's question. Now, of course, we started this question of the week thing since episode 200, so you can call in anytime for any of the previous questions. And we had that. We had a few people call in about their unpopular opinions from episode 202. So let's get in. We'll start off with Mr. Z Space himself. So let's get into it.
Hey guys, Z Space here. Longtime listener of the podcast, but I've been away for a while, slowly making my return though. So I have two kind of bad opinions. So the first one is that we should legalize real world trading. So right now, you have like Venezuelan gold farmers that have to go through these like shady third party websites in order to sell their GP and make a livelihood. And it's pretty easy to get scammed when doing that. So we should remove the stigma against real world trading and allow more reputable marketplaces for people to go through so that they can buy and sell gold and make it less likely that people get hurt in the process. Because if it's going to happen, you may as well make it as clean as possible. The other bad opinion I have is that most RuneScape players are some of the least skilled gamers that I've ever seen.
Yeah.
If you go on like the subreddit, you'll see like so many people like freaking out over Jad when you have to click a prayer like once every 3.6 seconds, which is like incredibly slow. Coming from a game that is quite frankly a lot faster, a lot more intense, it kind of makes me wonder like what would happen if I like threw a bop at most RuneScape players. I think most of them would have a meltdown. So so most RuneScape players are actually terrible gamers, and they should feel bad. So, anyways, those are my bad opinions. Looking forward to returning to the game. See y'all later.
Z-Space, thank you so much for the call. And you know for a fact that I'll be using that quote of RuneScape players are bad at gaming and they should feel bad in one of the intro episodes coming up in the future. So yeah, there's two of them there. The first one is legalize real world trade. You know, there's a lot of similarities to like legalizing marijuana and drugs in general. I know some countries have legalized, like maybe not legalized, but decriminalized all drugs just to make it easier for people to get help and all this. You know, I have it here. You know, I live in Ontario, and in Toronto, they would open up these safe injection sites, and it was this very controversial thing that was happening where, you know, these medical professionals were setting up these little areas, like they're basically tents at a park, and they made it so that if there were heroin addicts or anyone who's using heroin, they could come to these safe injection sites and they could do it safely. They had clean needles, they had professionals who would supervise. I don't know the full extent of what was going on, but the whole idea was like, if you provide a safe place for people to do heroin, you'll have less overdoses because they'll be being monitored. And people, you had like some sort of mental health or addictions counselor would be there as well. So that like, you could talk to them afterwards and be like, listen, I need a hand. So it became this big problem because it wasn't quite legal, but you know, professionals were doing it anyways as a way to help with the opioid problem that was going on. And ultimately, it seemed to have a pretty positive impact. And then I think COVID happened, and I'm not quite sure what happened, or if they ever plan on making a return. But I mean, same thing with like weed, right? Like I used to, in my days of like smoking weed illegally, you'd have to go get it from like, you know, back alleyways, and you'd have to get it from someone. And so many times that like, it's just like, it could be sketchy if you don't have, if your guy you get it from is all out, you got to go to someone else. And sometimes it's a little bit sketchy. You got ripped off sometimes. And like weed was a little bit tamer, but other drugs, you could definitely put yourself in a really sketchy situation. Whereas now it's illegal here in Canada, and there's like stores all over the place. They get it delivered, and it's like, it's just like buying alcohol. So, legalizing real world trade, I would say that is quite unpopular, but I totally understand where you're coming from there. I think they kind of try to do that with bonds, but I mean, not really. It wasn't real world trading, but you could trade for membership and whatnot. And the second point, RuneScapers being bad at gaming. You know what? I think I have to agree. I think the thing with RuneScape 2 is the way this game is. If you're good at RuneScape, those skills don't translate well to other games, I don't think. I've played, you know, I'm a pretty big gamer. I've played a lot of different games throughout my life. I've played like a lot of MMOs as well. And like, here's the thing. If I play an FPS game and I'm good at like a first person shooter, if I play another first person shooter, I already kind of, those skills kind of transfer, right? There's little things that you got to adjust. It's a whole totally different game. So you do need to adjust, but the mechanical skill of being able to like aim and all that stuff, it does transfer over, right? And that happens for like a lot of things. Rhythm games or racing games, or like what do they call them, like the Street Fighter, those games like Super Smash Brothers, that sort of stuff, they tend to transfer over. But I thought RuneScape, if you're really good at RuneScape, like I can't think of another game that you could pick up and you'd be like, wow, I'm really good at this because I've played RuneScape before. It's like you know how they say, so RuneScape uses like the code they use, or the language they use to code the game. It's called RuneScript, which is supposed to be like some offshoot of JavaScript. I don't know much about coding, so bear with me, anyone who's like cringing right now. But the whole thing is like, it's so hard to get developers to stay with Jagex for a long time because they have to learn this script that they will never use in the future because it's only specific to RuneScape. It's like the same way with people who play this game. Like, You'll go to another game and it's like, yeah, knowing the tick mechanics, being able to have that internal clock, I don't know where that's going to help you. Maybe like, I don't know. I have no idea where that would help you. RuneScape 3. That's it. All right, let's get into our next caller from Ging X.
G'day from Australia. It's Jing.
Sorry.
Here's my unpopular opinion. Without going stupid, pre-EOC, there were double XP weekends, and they really encouraged me to train skills I didn't usually train. And so that was pretty good to look forward to. And another one would be that the experience rates across all skills could be reworked. So bullshit skills like fletching weren't the fastest, and runecrafting, mining, agility weren't so crap. Anyway, lots of love. Take care. Bye.
All right, so 2 unpopular opinions there. The first one being double XP weekends or events doing that. And you know what? Yeah, I think we all are like, no, we can never have that in old school RuneScape. That being said, I used to play MapleStory, and they would do double experience, and they would have like double loot drop weekends and stuff. And I will say, it was a pretty fun weekend. I really looked forward to those, and those were a lot of fun. And yeah, the second part about XP rates being kind of all over the place, it really is. I don't know if that's going to get fixed, but it does. I do feel like what we're going to get there is a lot of fun. There's going to be fun activities to train most skills. I think that's the direction we're going in after seeing the rune crafting update. All right, next we got Gorkies. We got a lot of callers this week. It's so exciting.
Hey, Dills and Heartless. This is Gorkies from Australia. I've been playing RuneScape since around 2003, and I've been listening to the podcast for around 2 or so years now. I just want to say great work with all the podcast episodes, and keep it up. It's really entertaining, and I love hearing your opinions on the updates and just general gameplay and general discussion. My unpopular opinion about RuneScape or old school RuneScape is a really simple one, and it's that training agility is actually fun. I find it super relaxing, and it's just something you can mindlessly do while AFKing something on the couch or watching TV or something like that. Once again, guys, great work with the podcast. Love it all, and can't wait for new episodes. Bye.
Oh, thank you so much for the call. And yeah, training agility being not even the opinion of training agility isn't the worst, I would say is a pretty unpopular opinion. It's pretty bad. Although, yeah, Hollowed Sepulchre is not bad. The Brimhaven agility course, I did love it when I was a kid. I remember I got a month of membership. My parents were divorced, so I was only, so I'd go see my dad every other weekend, and he had a computer, whereas I didn't have one growing up with my mom, and we lived down the street from a library. So I was like, it was like living a luxurious lifestyle, being so close to a public library to play RuneScape and being able to play it at home if I needed to. Me and Deegan, my brother, old co-host of the show, we would always fight over who gets the home computer and who has to go to the library. So we always had like a little trade-off system. But when I got my membership, I remember I would go, and every time I was at my dad's, all I did was I went to the Brimhaven agility course, and I did that because I so badly wanted to try it out. And I remember getting to 45 agility in the first month. And I used to, what you could do is you would look up the high scores and you could sort it by the people on your friends list. And I was always like, I was so proud of me having the highest agility out of all my friends. It was great. All right, next we got Busco Beep. Let's get into it.
Hey, Dills and Heartless, Busco Beep here. Thank you guys both for kind of just putting on this podcast. I know that we all really appreciate it. And if anyone listening isn't already in the clan, I highly recommend it. I joined about 2 weeks ago, and it's been nothing but positive. So I actually have one gripe and one unpopular opinion. So my gripe is the Dragon Hunter Lance needs some love. I know the crossbow has all the recolors and all the attention, but as a Lance owner, the Lance needs some love. I'll recolor anything, ornament kit, really anything. And then my unpopular opinion is people need to start, or at least try, training Slayer with a Bone Crusher necklace, and Proselyte. It gives you, at least at my prayer of 91, it gives me 8.5 minutes of protect from magic, melee, or missiles. So definitely a lot more chill. And if you are killing a monster that can be cannoned with bones, you really don't need any prayer pots. So give it a shot. I like to do it that way. I know that DPS is king in this game, but give it a shot. Thanks.
We do focus on DPS being king in so many ways, but there are a lot of reasons you might set your guy up a little bit differently. And you know what? Don't let anyone tell you differently. I remember I had a glory. I was out there cannoning. So way back when, Neve's Cave used to be like a private server cave. It would have every single Slayer monster in Neve's Cave, and it literally looked like a private server. And it was a huge problem that people had. People were constantly saying, like, why the hell is this in the game? The whole idea was a way to train your Slayer quicker, because this was earlier on in the game's life, and Jagex just wanted people to level up as fast as possible, because people didn't like the early game. They wanted their old accounts back, right? We're talking 2013, 2014. I had a cannon set up, and I had a glory, and I had a dragon square shield, and this dude was chirping me. He called me out. He's like, dude, why are you cannoning when you can't even afford a fury? Like, you're wasting so much money. And it was like, he was chirping me. And I felt really bad that I was like, you know what? I'm going to pack up this cannon. Maybe this isn't such a smart idea. That's funny. But yeah, going back to your Dragon Hunter Lance, I remember, I think Deegan pitched this way back in an older episode, and I always loved this idea. I know Jagex would never do this because I guess it's just too cool of an idea. But his thought was that with Dragon Hunter weapons, how cool would it be if when you killed X amount of a specific type of dragon, it unlocked the ability for you to change the way your lance or your crossbow looked. So if you killed, 500 KBD, King Black Dragon, you could then unlocked a recolor or reskin of the Dragon Hunter crossbow to be black instead of red, right? And you could do the same thing with it being white with Ohm when you got enough kill count there, and then red dragons. Actually, it starts reds. That doesn't make sense, but you get what I'm saying, right? Blue, maybe Vorkath, it gives it a blue recolor, and whatever it is, you all these different bosses would unlock different reskins for not just your crossbow though, also the Dragon Hunter Lance, because we don't have any weapons where you have to kind of level up that weapon. Right, we don't really have that. Like RuneScape 3 has it, where you get, if you kill 1,000 monsters with this weapon, it levels up the weapon and it becomes that much stronger. We don't really have that in old school RuneScape, and I always thought that would be really cool to do it with the recolors. And finally, let's get into our final caller of the week.
Hey guys, this is No Till. I'm loving the podcast. My unpopular opinion, sorry I'm late, would be that I think OSRS doesn't need polls anymore. I think it's an opinion that's gaining traction, but the game is like almost 9 years old now. If it was a child, it should be getting some responsibilities, you know what I mean? I think that the developers, for the most part, have been doing a pretty okay job. If anything, let's bring down the 75% threshold. Let's bring it down to 70, maybe even 65%. I don't know. Maybe that's my unpopular opinion. Thanks, guys. Have a good one.
I totally understand. It's tricky. I go back and forth, right? I think the polling system has been a problem at certain times with like not allowing, like, right? They cut off at 75%. There's a few times we had 74.6%. Like, we're so close. And Jagex usually sees that as like, we're almost there. Let's tweak it a bit and see if we can get it. But it really sucks to see when something like that fails. That being said, you can't, okay, well, we'll let it if it's like a few percentage under 75. And then that becomes a slippery slope. At what point do you, okay, 50% is where we stop it. Now, that being said, I think the problem, like why we need the polling system, and we still have this problem to this day, is that Jagex isn't super consistent in their quality of work or their ideas, right? They pitch ideas all the time that like we might walk away being like, who the hell even thought of that? Like, do you remember when they wanted to release negative XP lamps? You get these XP lamps and you'd have to like spend like 10 mil and you would drop your XP a little bit. And this was supposed to be a reward from like Rev Caves. Like, it's such a specific, like, I don't know. I get the idea of it, but that's how you want to do it. Oh, that's a bad idea. And it got voted down. And they've done that a handful of times where people had to be like, no, this is a terrible idea. And I wish I could be like, you know what? Jagex is doing a good job. Let's take away the poll system. But, let's look at A Night at the Theater. We still got this really shitty quest they brought out that was like horrible. And it passed and they still did a bad job. But like, sometimes it has you thinking like, why? That's a problem. Like sometimes with the polls, like you remove it, but then you're like, oh my God, they might screw it up. They've screwed it up so many times in the past. I remember the first time they updated without polling something. People flipped their shit, and it was a integrity change, PvP integrity change, because this was back when Monkey Madness 2 came out, and we had heavy ballistas and light ballistas, and anybody could use any of them if you had the range level. But what happened was the heavy ballista was so strong when it was paired with full void that PKers would be wearing full void with the heavy ballista and they would never need to swap it out. So when you PK, you have your one weapon that you're attacking with a lot of consistent damage, and then you switch to another weapon that you hope to KO them, whether it's a DDS or maybe it's a GMUL or an AGS, some hard-hitting weapon of some sorts. You didn't have to do that with the heavy ballista. It was so strong, hitting consistent 60s, that people would just camp the heavy ballista and they would get kills like crazy. So they brought out the integrity change where they made it so the heavy ballista required Monkey Madness 2 to be completed. I think maybe even light ballista, or maybe they just nerfed it. And then void got nerfed as well because that's where they brought out the elite void. They split it up. They made the damage increase come from elite void, not regular void. So that was the first one, and people lost their shit. All right, guys, that's it for our callers. Thank you so much to everyone who called in. It's my favorite segment. I was always kind of worried that we wouldn't get too many callers, but I mean, I was always worried that we wouldn't get any callers. But it's awesome. I get emails every time one comes in, and I'm like, ooh, I get really excited. Anyways, our question of the week was actually sent in from a listener, and this is sent in from Drew. He wanted to know, what skilling method would be the most dangerous IRL? And we can even like bring this down to like, what skilling method would be the worst job to have IRL? And you know what? Let's eliminate any combat related skills, because I mean, you could say like, well, if I had a job and they just sent me to go kill a bunch of creatures, that'd be pretty tough and that'd feel really bad. But then you go kill 100 blood velds and you're like, wow, this is going to be one hectic of a shift. You come back and then your boss goes, that's great. Can you go kill like 100 elves? And you're just like, wait, you want me to go kill like another humanoid person? Yeah. If you could just kill a bunch of elves, that would be great. And then maybe some dwarves afterwards. You're just like, yeah, that's a little sketch. I don't know if that's like that's a little bit different than killing bloodfilled. So anyway, let's remove the combat stats from being possible jobs. Anyways, Drew sent in an answer as well, and he said, for him, blast furnace would be a health and safety nightmare. There's no rails on the ramps, and you're about 1 inch from an exposed belt and molten core. Yeah, that does sound quite dangerous indeed. And it had me thinking, what would be the worst? I mean, first off, I think anything on the thieving skill would be pretty bad. Well, maybe not, because that's kind of like being in the mafia, right? If you're like the thieving, anything in the thieving skill, you're stealing shit. You're kind of like part of like a mafia or some sort of gang, right? You got your boss is probably some like mob boss sort of deal, which that could be seen as a pretty bad job or dangerous job, depending on your thoughts of it. You know, when you play Sims and you're like reading the newspaper and it's like, oh, you have a job to be a coder. You're like, nah. A job in construction, nah. And you see a job application to be a criminal. You're like, whoa, this is right in the newspaper. Sure. And you end up taking that job, and you know, you get start off as a little petty pickpocket thief, and then you become a burglar, and then you become like a murderer, and you get a promotion to a murderer. That's fun. And a serial killer, that'd be like, is that like top? What would be above a serial killer? No, that's too dark. Anyways, thieving is out the table. I was thinking maybe chins would be quite explosive. There's a lot you could choose, but I think I'm going to just pick. I'm going to go with motherlode mining, I think, because mining itself probably isn't that great of a job. I mean, it doesn't sound like a great job. Probably get paid pretty well, but it just seems sketchy. And on top of that, like if you're at Motherlode Mine, first off, you have this one dude just screaming at you all the time. But you also, like, as you're walking, parts of that cave is caving in. Like that doesn't seem very safe. It seems kind of sketchy, you know? So I'm gonna have to go with Motherlode Mine. So yeah, guys, let me know. Call in. The link will be in the description. What skilling method would be the worst job to do in real life, in your opinion? There's a lot you can choose from. All right, guys. So we'll wrap it up. We got to do some housekeeping as usual. And you know what? One thing I don't think I've ever put this ask out there, but we'll do it this episode. If anyone like wants to figure out like, how can I support the show, but you don't want to do it monetarily, which they're just totally fine. And if you listen on Apple Podcasts, feel free to give us rate the show and do a little review, and be honest. You can tell us whatever you want. It helps give visibility to the show as well for other people who are on Apple. Yeah, so feel free to do that if you want. Now, if you want to hang out with us in game, you can join our clan, which is Clan Wild. We have a Discord server with a lot of fun stuff going on. We had a South Park watch party on the weekend, and that was a lot of fun. Oh man, what a great show. And it was fun to watch it with other people. I normally would watch by myself because my wife doesn't like to watch South Park, but being able to escape and watch it with a bunch of people was a lot of fun on Saturday. So you can join our Discord, which is discord.gg/thewilderness. And one thing I'm just going to add as well is, you know, we do a lot of fun events. We know we have bingo a bunch of times a few times a year. We do a weekly skill of the week competition, which is just an excuse to train your skill. You might win a bond as well, and you get a fun little emblem. But also, got to shout out to Uncle Kratos in the clan as well. He started this weekly event every Sunday called Sunday Mass. Every week there's a different boss that's chosen, and if you feel like killing it, a bunch of people go and just, you know, go and kill the boss a bunch. And it's just a fun way to get some KC and to hang out. And, you know, if you want to learn how to raid do a boss, this is a very casual way of doing it. And it's really fun to go do a Chambers of Xeric with like 20 different people. And our email is TheWildernessPodcast@gmail.com. You can always send in a message. If you don't want to call in, you can always write a message as well, an email. And again, it can be for any of the questions in the past, or you can just call in or write in to say whatever you want. I just love hearing from people. It's like my favorite part. Yeah, I think that's it. We have a Twitter @TheWildernessRS as well. I periodically post on there. And I think that's about it. All right. Our song of the week, let's make it, let's go back to the very first OSRS Easter event. This song is called Funny Bunnies, and it was originally brought into the game during the 2006 Easter event. So this is a way back playback, I think, as they would say. All right, guys, thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed it, and we will see you on the next one. Bye-bye.